On September 17th and 18th, 2024, Lebanon was struck by terror. Explosions ripped through cities and towns, spreading fear and chaos. These explosions targeted everyday devices, pagers and walkie-talkies. The blasts killed dozens and injured hundreds. They marked a dangerous escalation in the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. Explosions left the Lebanese people grappling with a new reality.
The explosions occurred in quick succession, targeting Hezbollah strongholds and civilian areas alike. Beirut, the capital city, was hit particularly hard. Explosions rocked busy shopping districts, residential neighborhoods, and Hezbollah offices. The simultaneous nature of the blasts suggested a coordinated effort. The death toll climbed steadily in the hours and days that followed. Hospitals struggled to cope with the influx of wounded. The Lebanese Red Cross issued an urgent call for blood donations. The attacks left a trail of devastation in their wake.
As the dust settled, Lebanese authorities launched a full-scale investigation into the attacks. They were determined to find those responsible and bring them to justice. Early suspicions fell on Israel, which had a long history of covert operations against Hezbollah. The sophistication of the attacks and the targeting of Hezbollah's communication network pointed to a state actor with advanced intelligence capabilities. Israel, while not officially claiming responsibility, did little to dispel the rumors. Israeli officials hinted at their involvement, suggesting that the attacks were a justified response to Hezbollah's terrorist activities. They argued that Hezbollah, with its vast arsenal of rockets and missiles, posed an existential threat to the Jewish state. The investigation quickly expanded beyond Lebanon's borders. International intelligence agencies, including the CIA and MI6, offered their assistance, recognizing the global implications of the attacks. The hunt for the perpetrators led investigators down a complex trail, spanning continents and uncovering a web of intrigue that reached the highest levels of power.
Hezbollah, reeling from the attacks, vowed swift and decisive retaliation. The group's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, addressed the nation in a televised speech, his voice filled with anger and grief. He condemned the attacks as a cowardly act of terrorism and accused Israel of orchestrating the bombings. Nasrallah declared that Hezbollah would not be intimidated by these attacks. He promised to avenge the deaths of their fighters and vowed to strike back at Israel with even greater force. "We will choose the time, the place, and the method of our response," Nasrallah warned, "and Israel will bear the full consequences of its aggression."
The attacks presented Hezbollah with a dilemma. They could retaliate immediately, striking targets in Israel and risking a wider conflict, or they could choose a more measured response, focusing on rebuilding their capabilities and demonstrating their resilience. The group's decision, whatever it may be, would have profound consequences for the region.
The international community reacted to the Lebanon pager blasts with a mixture of condemnation and concern. The United Nations Security Council held an emergency meeting where member states denounced the attacks and called for restraint from all sides. The United States, a staunch ally of Israel, expressed concern over the escalating violence, but stopped short of condemning the attacks outright. European leaders urged both Israel and Hezbollah to exercise restraint and avoid actions that could further destabilize the region. They called for a return to dialogue and diplomacy, emphasizing the need for a peaceful resolution to the long-standing conflict.
The attacks highlighted the volatile nature of the Middle East and the ever-present risk of conflict. The attacks also sparked a debate about the use of such unconventional tactics. Some argued that the targeting of everyday devices blurred the lines between military and civilian targets, raising serious ethical concerns. Others countered that in a shadowy conflict like this, where Hezbollah operated within civilian areas, such distinctions were meaningless.
The Lebanon pager blasts marked a dangerous turning point in the Israel-Hezbollah conflict. The attacks shattered the fragile peace that had held for years, raising the specter of a wider war. The use of unconventional tactics, the targeting of civilian areas, and the vows of retaliation created a combustible mix that threatened to ignite the region. The attacks also underscored the changing nature of warfare. The use of everyday devices as weapons blurred the lines between the physical and digital battlefields. It also raised troubling questions about the vulnerability of civilian populations in an era of increasing technological sophistication.
The international community faced a daunting challenge in preventing further escalation. The situation called for a deft combination of diplomacy, deterrence, and a willingness to address the root causes of the conflict. Failure to do so could have catastrophic consequences, not only for Israel and Lebanon, but for the entire region.